Welcome back to the LGBTQ Business Podcast. I hope you're really well wherever you are in the world listening in this morning to Stefan. My name is Jamie, and as always, I'm helping to co host the podcast. Stefan, how are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you, Jamie.
What's on your mind?
Oh, a lot of things, a lot of things. I think we need to talk about the struggle and how hard it actually is to build a business. A lot of people think too much that it's a walk in the park, think that once they get the first couple of sales, everything will be just a breeze, but it's not. I mean, it's not supposed to be that easy that even when you're starting and you get some little successes in a couple of weeks or months, you still have to work to build and to grow your business. And yesterday I saw a post on Instagram. I was talking about that, like how much we are showing the successes and how good we are doing and all of that. Maybe to attract customers, to show that, hey, look, if you work with us, we're doing so well, you're going to be also doing well if you work with us. But we should talk more about how hard it is. People should understand how hard it is to build a business. Even in our case, we as Titanology, we are a program that helps businesses grow. We help them start, we help them scale and whatnot, but we have to do marketing, we have to do sales, and we also struggle with getting people on board, not just because our product is bad, not just because we're not doing marketing, but that's just a fact. Not everybody that you're going to talk to will just jump on board. And that can become frustrating. But then we have to remember ourselves like, it's not supposed to be easy. If it would be easy, then everybody would be an entrepreneur. Everybody would have their own business and be very successful, and nobody would need a job anymore. So, yeah, it's something that has been on my mind a couple of days now, and it's an important message to bring.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal. Like, we extrapolate so easily. We go, oh, once X is in place, this piece of infrastructure, this website, this customer, this referral, this funnel, well, then the thing just looks after itself. And it's strange that we make that jump because that's not true in any other area of our life. But
No.
I think we make it here.
Yeah, and even if you think you have all the ducks in a row, all the infrastructure in place, then it's the next problem, right? You might start here and you have overcome the initial struggles, but then there's a next struggle. And once you reach that level, there's a next struggle. So people need to understand that there will always be a struggle. It will always be hard. If we want to if we want to have a business, if we want to make it last for us and we want to enjoy how hard it is, but we need to be comfortable with all the struggles. We need to be comfortable by being uncomfortable all the time, Jamie.
Yeah, there is a point worth making here, which is in every game, there's pros and cons.
Hmm.
One of the big pros of the getting a job game is you don't have to worry like about the macro health of the business. You're not fussed about existential worries in sale. Like these aren't your concerns.
Hmm.
However, there is a different kind of pain, which is you don't have ownership. Yeah, it can't scale nearly as quickly as far as you're concerned in terms of your livelihood, your business, your
Hmm.
wage. So you really need to pick your poison. And
Yeah.
I guess my question to you is how do you know whether this is the right game for you?
Well, I had an interesting discussion yesterday with another business owner, and we were talking about, yeah, why would we do this? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why should we not just go for a job? But it's something in our personality that is drawn to building something. It's drawn to being somebody that people can look up to as well. It's also about that. It's about showing people what you can do, your knowledge, your craftsmanship. Um, it's not just about having a business or making a lot of money. It's more than that.
Do you think I was having this conversation the other day with a friend, and we kind of came to the conclusion, not entirely seriously, by the way, that we both run small businesses.
Yeah,
On some level, small business owners have a bit of a chip on their shoulder.
yeah,
In some ways, you're trying to prove something to someone
yeah.
because, Jesus, mate, take a job.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We want to prove that we are good and that we are capable of doing something extraordinary because having a business, we are part of almost maybe the top 10% of people that are actually doing this. 90% of the people don't even think about it or don't want to put in the energy. So that sets us apart, which already gives us like a feeling of I'm really having an impact here into my own life, but in other people's lives as well. And that's almost an addiction.
Yeah, and it's sold as you can be your own boss. In 99% of cases, you've just given yourself a job,
Yeah, yeah,
and you have the worst boss in the world because he lives
yeah,
in your bedroom and he doesn't care what time it is.
yeah.
And if we're being honest, like when you're feeling overwhelmed, and we spoke about overwhelm on the pod, but when you're feeling overwhelmed with the number of balls you're having to juggle, the simplicity of, oh, I don't know, 9 to 6 and I'm out the door, not a care in the world, is so appealing. The only problem is if you went and did the 9 to 6, and everyone's had this experience, right? Everyone at some point or other has had a 9 to 6.
Mhm.
You just bite off another kind of poison. It's maybe the boredom or the lack of inspiration or the
Mhm.
lack of ownership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Life is
Absolutely.
hard is the punchline, and you have to pick your challenges.
Yeah. But I think being a business owner is the best job in the world unless unless you make it just like another job. We've talked about this as well. Like we have to transcend ourselves into a situation where we become the owner and not so much like the
The manager.
person that is doing everything, right? We have to build a business, and that's where the struggle is. That's where a lot of people go wrong in thinking if I just work for myself, I have a business and everything will be okay. I will have the same kind of success as everybody else. It doesn't work that way. I mean, look at all the freelancers out there. I've done it for a decade. I've done freelancing for a decade, so I was my own boss, in between quotes, but I still needed to work a lot of hours, and I wasn't really building a business. Even though I was earning good money, I didn't have a business, and that's the biggest difference, I think. And that's where the struggle comes. Like if people really start building a business, they experience a lot of struggle because they have to do sales, marketing, operations, and customer success and finances. And once they feel that, they almost go back to, okay, no, 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 no. Let's just go back to just being ourselves and just working for ourselves, and that's it. But then the cycle repeats like, ah, oh, we're burned out, we have to do too much, I can't do this anymore, so let's build a business. And it goes on and on and on and on. So, that being said, that's why it's so important that we need to become comfortable with the growth, with all the parts of a business that we need to take care of. And once we do that, I'm not going to say it's going to become easier, but at least we're not going to fool ourselves and go back to the safe space of just being a solopreneur or a freelancer or whatever.
Yeah, it seems like being a freelancer is in some ways, the worst of every world because you effectively have a job that's a salary and you don't have the passive income or the processes outside of yourself. But you also don't have any of the security of a job.
Yeah, yeah, even less so because the freelancers are the first ones that they lay off. That they, you know, I've done it. I mean, I've built a six-figure business as a freelancer. So I would
What were you freelancing in?
so I was doing Office 365 consultancy. So that's like Microsoft software to implement with in big businesses to streamline processes and also team building and so on. So I was doing that for, yeah, for 8 hours a day, right? It was like just like a normal job, but I was my own boss again. I was a freelancer. So you earn per hour, basically.
So you were effectively a freelance consultant.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, and I know that a lot of people do that, and it's a legit thing to do, but I would argue that it is not a business. For me, a business is where you're not the only one anymore. If you want to become a business owner, you have a name on your business, you have a product, you have team members around you that can help you build it. Now, to get there from freelancing to that business, that's where a lot of struggle is. It's hard.
What do you think? What do you think are the specific things that when you say it's hard and there's a struggle? What are the specifics you have in mind?
Sales, first of all, sales and marketing. Without those two, nothing will happen. So you have to do a lot of marketing to create the awareness about what you do, and then you have to persuade, convince people to get into your product, to buy your product, to buy your services. Um, why is that hard? Because you're gonna get a lot of no's. You're gonna get a lot of people that seem interested, but in the end don't buy. And especially coming from the freelancing or coming from what you know you do well, like social media management or building websites or anything like that. You know you can do it well. So why are people so reluctant to buying what you have, right? And that eats you up. That makes you frustrated because you link yourself to your business, and that's where a lot of the struggle is, especially in the beginning. You try to sell your services, and if people say no, then you take it personal. And I still do this, and it becomes frustrating because why why can't they see that how good this is, right? But that's just business. You will not always be able to get everybody.
Mate, it's yeah, the linking your self-esteem to your business in some way
Yeah,
is something that we all basically do to some degree, and it sucks.
yeah,
Now you've given yourself the worst job in the world because not only does it not give you a reliable source of income unless you go and create it, you also are now feeling worse about yourself as a human being.
yeah, yeah. You
And
have to overcome that.
yeah, and in the context of the LGBTQ plus community, there's added layers, right?
Because we've already gone through a lot of struggles, and that's also part of why a lot of people within the community don't even think about starting their own business because they feel like, okay, we've gone through all of this already, then we should start a business and go through a lot of more struggle. No, thank you. But again, if you really want to build that dream life, if you really want to find that financial freedom, I would argue that having a business is the best way to get there.
I think systems are your best friend, right? As a business owner.
Mm.
If you have reliable systems and processes and repeatability, your capacity for overwhelm is reduced by three quarters off the bat. The problem is no one fucking tells you that at the start. You spend six
And
months doing it off the cuff, and as something I'm running into in real time, as of
yeah,
last night at 10:30, is over reliance on individuals.
hmm
Over reliance on individuals, which basically just highlights you don't have enough processes. You know, depending on the level of skill required to do the thing in your business, in my case, it's editing podcasts, which is skilled work, you know? When I say editing, I don't mean content editing, that's a separate person, people,
hmm
but the actual software editing itself, leveling the audio, ums and
mm.
ahs, ticks, plus the content at the end, you know, the videos, the audio clips, yada yada. That's skilled work, but it's also something that, strictly speaking, anyone should be able to be trained to do who has experience with editing software, etc. It's complicated. It's not so complicated that someone without experience couldn't do it.
Mm.
But when you're over reliant on individuals, you feel the pretend safety of I don't need to have a process.
Mm.
And then the rug is pulled underneath you, which is, in my view, and I don't really mean this, but I sort of semi mean this. The universe going, haha, told you, you didn't have processes, go build some processes.
Yeah.
There's like this feedback mechanism that happens in business.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the struggle and overwhelm, the only thing I can really think is like, shit, get some processes that are reliable. You know the phrase turnkey operation?
Mm-hmm.
Key in, you turn it, it works.
Mm-hmm.
The other way of looking at that is, is your business franchisable? Could someone else go do your business with your
Mm-hmm.
processes? And if the answer is no, on one level it's because you haven't got a repeatable
Yeah.
understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I
How would you
agree completely.
how would you go about building processes?
Building processes, that's a good question. It's what I think people need to understand is everything in your business is a process. Every single thing, from creating content to DMing people to calling people to um, delivering, of course, as well. What you are actually being paid for. Every single piece of your business is a process. So how do you start? Is by stop a moment, think about, like you said, what if we 10x our business tomorrow?
Hmm.
Will it still be running? Will we be able to? Because a lot of people want a lot of customers, but if we say to them, hey, look, tomorrow you're going to get 10 more customers, 10, do you think people will say, yay, more customers? Or they will say, like, oh shit, and
I
now
would
how are I going to deliver that?
I'd go, oh shit.
And that's what you have to think about every step of the way. Everything that you do, from sales, marketing, content creation, um, delivery, finances, every single piece, you have to think, okay, I have to do this task, but what if tomorrow I have to 10x my business? How would it look like? What should I set into place as a process so I'm still able to provide the right kind of quality, right? And just a simple example, because that is something that I've been doing the last couple of weeks with a lot of our students as well, content creation and doing the outreach, for example. You have to think, okay, I cannot keep doing this all by myself. So, what is the strategy? What is the process that I need to put in place so it becomes easy for somebody else to pick it up and run with it? Like, I'm creating a lot of videos, right? I've been creating tons of videos across the last couple of months, but I've never really been able to utilize them in a structured, strategized way. And now that I have somebody, an apprentice that can help me with the content creation, now I really think, okay, if I create a video, the next step is I need to put it somewhere so the person can reach it, and then we need to figure out how to upload it to the different channels, but also be strategic about why are we using this
Can I
video.
can I just jump in there? That's
Yeah,
the difference between freelancing and the business. When you're
yeah,
freelancing, you don't have to think to that level of detail
yeah,
about, okay, I make video, someone else sees video, someone else uploads video. Let's work out the most efficient way to go about that process. It's
yeah.
so unsexy. I did a year of business school after my undergraduate, and all we spoke about was process and project management. And it blew my mind. I thought that I had no idea that existed as a thing that you had to pay attention to. But the truth is, the quality of your businesses, in the end, is the quality of your processes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could have, as you're saying, you could have a brilliant product, and that's a prerequisite and a brilliant service. But if you can't deliver on its repeatability, you're guaranteed to be overwhelmed emotionally.
Yeah, yeah, and you become so attached to the outcome, to the success of what you're doing, that once you get hit by a no or get hit by sickness even, or your internet goes down or your computer breaks down, that everything crumbles down. It crumbles really, and it stops your business to a grinding halt. And then what?
Do you think so? When you talk about building processes for every stage of the business, are you writing these down in one master document? Like, how's this being presented?
So what I do, because it works different for everybody. I'm a very visual person, and I like to create a lot of videos and just show what I'm doing. So for me, what I advise people to do is just record what you're doing. So every time that you're doing something and you're thinking, oh my God, I have to do this again and again and again, I don't like to do this. Well, stop, start recording what you're doing, put it in a directory somewhere, indeed, and then if you have somebody or if you want to hire somebody, then give that video to that person and they have to replicate what you have done. They have to maybe write out what you are doing and they have to improve it. And this is also a very important piece of the puzzle. It's your team that you want eventually to run the business, right? So they have to do the processes, they have to run the processes. So whatever you came up with as a process, they will do probably different or better, and you have to be open for that, and they have to do that. So
Yeah, there's a
yeah.
nuance. There's a nuance here around like, okay, so let's again take me as an example. I went to radio school and I've done a fair amount of editing. I don't though have a 4 year degree in music tech.
Mm,
There's no doubt in my mind that I can't edit nearly as well as the editors I work with.
mm,
It's not even a conversation. Of course, that like that's their area of specialty and they're brilliant at it. But if I'm trying to make a process around editing, it seems like I should probably be saying to them, "Hey, will you work with me to build this process?"
yeah,
Y- Is that is that sounding right to you?
yeah. Especially if you don't own that skill per se, like if you're not the expert
Mm.
into that, yeah, that makes sense totally. I'm helping now an agency owner scale his business, and he's doing really well. But now he's in a situation that he has to onboard new people to do what he is doing, right? And one of the things, of course, is we don't always have the time to train other people. So what do you do? And I came up with just do pair working. Do you know pair programming? If somebody listens and has a developer background, they will know what pair programming means. But let's do pair working. It means that you set two people in front of the same screen, virtual or not, and both of you do the work. So if I would have somebody next to me, I would do the work and they would look over my shoulder to see how it is done, right? You can record again what you do, but doing it at the same time that you're doing it and explaining what you're doing and asking feedback and back and forth at the same time, that's what I would call pair working, and that is something that will, yeah, accelerate the onboarding, the training. You don't need to do training if you're just doing it at the spot.
Yeah, because it's true. Like, because learning any skill is a function of feedback. Basically,
Hmm.
it's a function of correct process and repetition.
Yeah,
And the most efficient way to get enough correct process touch points is just do it together. Yeah, like an
yeah,
interactive training situation.
yeah. Actually, doing the work, like if you're delivering on something for a customer, if you're building a website, then do that work together with the new person that you just hired. Do it and record it and then uh, draw it out, right?
By the way, I was having a conversation the last couple of weeks with someone who is involved with a startup, who was saying it's so difficult to recruit as a startup
Mm,
because you don't have the cash, right? Unless you're like post seed, you don't have the cash to compete with the stability of a job,
yeah.
right? Okay, so what that ends up meaning is well, a couple of things, but one is you need to offer something different. You need to offer some other advantage because Sainsbury's is a much better employer than you otherwise. So what you do is you train. You offer upskilling opportunities. You offer you'll leave here with some equity and some yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. You have to give them something to look forward to. Another struggle for a business owner indeed is who do you hire first? Who do you hire? How are you making sure that it's the right person for your business? And the simple answer is you don't know. You don't know who the right person is. You will only know if you hire somebody. That's the truth. And that puts, of course, again, a lot of stress and responsibility on the business owner. But as we just talked, if you quickly do the work together, you will quickly see who you have. And also, if you provide extra services, not just the training or not just the task to do, but also, hey, we are going to build this together, right? Are you committed to helping us build this business? Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for people that are entrepreneurs, not employees. You need to find people, especially in the beginning, you need to find people that are so driven, that are so passionate about the same thing that you do, or in terms of your vision, that they will sign up for anything almost.
Okay, I want to just add this wrinkle of obviously like there. I never quite know how to ask this question because there's so many potential nuances. But in the LGBTQ plus community,
Mm.
there's obviously a range of challenges, and I want to be specific about one or two today that add complexity. That add complexity to the game, but also provide potentially a community. Where do you see business owners in the community as having a more difficult time, and where do you see them as having an easier time?
That's a good but difficult question. I think
Mm.
it depends on the personal situation. Um, you could say that people might think that if you're selling to an audience that it's LGBTQ plus, that it's easier. It's not. Why? Because the basics are still the same. No matter who you're trying to target, no matter who you want to have as customer, no matter what you do, you still need to do marketing, you still need to do sales, you still need to get people on board on what you're doing, right? So I wouldn't say there's much of a big difference between being LGBTQ plus or not, serving that community or not.
Is there an advantage in having a community though?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. That's
That's
what we, yeah,
it's the
that's
great
what we,
irony. I mean, it's the great irony of anyone who's part of a marginalized group, right?
yeah,
Is there's the historical and structural oppression,
mm,
but from that to some degree leads a community of people who get it, who are with you,
yeah,
and there's a tightness there that's forged by the degree of oppression, which is always the irony I think when I think about my business and these businesses.
yeah, absolutely. Being in a community and serving the people within the community tends to create a better sense of rapport, sense of relationship. It's much easier to connect with those people. 100%, 100%. And you need that. You need to build a community around what you do. Every single business should have a community around that, and it becomes easier. It doesn't mean that it will be easy just to onboard people. It will be easier to find the right kind of people that you actually want as a customer.
And where's it more difficult? And I don't mean like you hear every 6 months some story comes out of America, baking shop, cake shop refuses to sell cake for LGBT wedding. That stuff aside,
It's for some it's more difficult in a way that yeah, that's not an easy question to answer. I think where it becomes more difficult if people get into in their own head and having the mindset of okay, I'm part of the LGBTQ plus, so people that I'm going to talk to that are not in the community might not like me, might not like what I do. Um, it doesn't even have to be a specific LGBTQ plus business, right? Whatever you do, that is something that I think could potentially be an extra challenge for sure. But it comes down around mindset, it comes down around the confidence about what you're doing. It's not just who you are, but also what are you doing, especially in a service type business or coaching or whatever. It's not always about you, it's about what you can deliver to people. So if that is the core of what you're thinking about, that should be what you're, yeah, also, that's what you need to tell to other people as well. Not so much the LGBTQ plus side of things.
Yeah, you also don't have much of a choice here. Like, what? You're gonna not run a business because of latent discrimination? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be that, you
yeah,
know.
exactly,
So
exactly. It's a sad inevitability, and there's a whole separate conversation which is beyond
yeah,
the scope of this episode
yeah,
about the ways in which that's getting better, worse, obvious, not obvious. But that's a conversation for a different podcast.
yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, it comes down to what we started with. The struggle is real, and the struggle will always be there for everybody. So let's not pretend that it is something that is easy. Let's not pretend that building a business is a walk in the park, and that we should only say how good it is. And yeah, we need to be realistic sometimes. We really need to talk about it like we are doing right now. You need somebody to talk about this as well.
I quite like the idea. I quite like the idea on Instagram, especially of I don't know whether you ever read because you were into your basketball, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if basketball publications used to do this. Football publications used to have something called three up, three down, three victories and three failures, and they'd pick
Mm.
people, right? Someone had a brilliant week opening their account for blah blah blah. On the other hand, someone got subbed off and gave the middle finger to the manager. It'd be
Yeah.
on Instagram as a premise to go like, good things that have happened this week, totally candid. Bad things that have happened this week, totally candid. That's
Yeah.
actually quite a liberate. Yeah,
That
someone
truth,
might be
right?
up for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
listen, Stefan, that was winding, and I really enjoyed it, and I feel better about the world. I think.
Yeah, me too.
All right, man. Wilson, thanks so much for letting me pick your brains as always, and to everyone listening, I hope that was useful. And sort of verged on the type of candid conversation we're looking to have here. So, have a great week, and as always, we'll see you next time.